Good morning and welcome to Goldcrest Valley Realism here in Farming Simulator 17. I'm Trusty Wren and we have a lot of work to do, so let's jump into it today. I have here the last little bit of seed in this big bag pallet. Let's jump in the Ford, pick it up, and we're going to take it just around the corner to where our sowing machine awaits. We still have some seed in our drill, but this pallet is low enough where I think we can just get rid of it. We can top off the drill while we're right here, and it's one less pallet to have to worry about shuffling around. Better put on our beacon. We're going to be taking up the road here for a second as we lift it up and put it up over our open drill, which is hop out here, open I think, and ready to receive seed. What's going on down there? Yep, got a little bit of seed left in there. I think if we drive over it, it'll automatically unload. Yep, there we go. And I think in Farming Simulator 17, once you deplete a pallet, it magically disappears. Not the most realistic, but it's convenient at least. And let's drop this down into kind of a resting position and turn off our beacon and turn off our engine and hop out of the Ford. We're going to switch gears here, switch tractors over into the dirtiest New Holland that ever was. We're going to have to take care of that at some point. But for now, we have some dirty work to do, getting out in the field and finishing off field 12 with our oilseed radish project here. Put the drill down into the ground. Hopefully we can get enough traction here. It was a little slippery there as I started out. And we're just making one last pass, one headland around this field, and we'll have all of our fields sown. If you joined me last time, you saw me do a little bit of it over in, I think, field 15. I did some off-camera, finished field 14, and finished most of this field. But we're going to just make one more pass around. If you joined me last time, you might remember that I had a pretty bad cold last time around. Sorry once again. I hope it wasn't too distracting as I recorded. I really wanted to get a video out. And it did make me a little groggy, though. And I forgot the order in which I was going to do stuff to in my fields. So I forgot to do my fertilizing before I did my sowing. So we're shaking things up a little bit, doing things in a bit of a reverse order. We're getting this oilseed radish in the ground, and then we're going to go around and put some solid fertilizer on the field. So not the ideal order that I would have preferred, but it's going to work just fine. I think I have too much, I think I have a little bit too wide of an area to sow on this side, so I'm going to make two passes here. Don't think I can get it all in one. So we're putting this oilseed radish in the ground. We're going to wait until it pops up, and then we're going to cultivate it right back under in an attempt to put some nutrients in the soil for the actual harvestable crops that we'll be putting in next. Let's spin around here. One more pass on this side, then we'll go up the other side of the field. Finish it off pretty quick here. I have our fertilizer spreader ready to go down by our workshop, down at just where we were. We're keeping our pallets and such. We will put that onto our Ford with the crop row tires, just to preserve the soil a little bit, and get some of that fertilizer on the field next. We're going to put it on all three of our fields, and it's got a big enough spread on it that it shouldn't take too long. We'll probably do all three of those fields on camera today, because it'll be so quick. Last episode, I was talking a bit about, I didn't know how fast we were going to go through seed as we were putting seed in the ground, and I was kind of impressed at how well our reserves were holding out. Like right now, as we move along here, we're not putting seed in the ground very fast. You see, we got 630 liters of seed there, 629. It's going to linger there a while. Now we're down to It's really lasting a while. 628, anybody? Coming up? There we go, 628. So we are using very little seed here. And I was talking about, oh, that's nice. That'll be, it won't take that much seed to sow this or our next round of crops. But there's an element of Farming Simulator, and I'm not sure if it's a new addition to 17 or if it was in 15 and I just didn't realize it. But different crops use different amounts of seed, and I didn't take that into account last time. And apparently, I looked up some numbers on it, and oilseed radish takes really the least amount of seed out of any crop, with the possible exception of grass. I forget off the top of my head. But once we start planting our actual crops, our cereal grains, our soybeans and stuff, all of that stuff's going to take quite a bit more, like 3, 4, 5 times more seed. So we're going to be going through seed pallets a lot faster than I had estimated in our last episode, as I was kind of seeing how fast we were going through seed with this radish crop here. So anyway, we're going to need to probably bring a trailer full of at least a few seed pallets down when we're ready to put our next crops in the ground here. And it looks like I missed just a couple little spots, and so we'll make one more pass here as we head back toward the barn. We're going to switch up some equipment. We'll put the front loader on this tractor so we can use it to lift fertilizer up into the fertilizer spreader that we'll put on the crop row tire Ford. And I think we're good here. Didn't see any other little spots that we missed. This field is 100% sown. So let's lift up the drill. Put a beacon on here. And head out onto the road. I wonder if it'd actually be a little more realistic if I put this down so the tires are touching the ground. Nope, that means the discs are in the ground as well. Never mind, that was a bad idea. Let's just hoist it up in the air. Let's take this back to our main yard here. We're done sowing for a little while, so we can back this up and put it away. Could stand a cleaning up, but we probably don't want to spray water on it while there's seed in it. So let's drop that off, and let's see, we can drop our weight off as well. We're gonna need to clear up that space for the front loader, and let's hop over to the Ford. Start that back up. I still haven't determined, and I'm going to through experience during this first round of radish here. I still haven't determined if the crop destruction mod will kill plants while they're still at the seed stage, before they've sprouted out of the ground. I'm thinking it won't, but just in case, I'm going to use the crop row tires as we go over the field with this next step of applying fertilizer. So let's see. Oops, we want to leave that on there. Drop the front loader off, back up, and we'll hop over to our filthy New Holland, which isn't going to be filthy for long. If you look just a little past where we are now, up toward the workshop, I've actually made the sort of definitely poor investment of getting a pressure washer here, put it in a nice spot that seems to fit well on this farm. And it is not a good item to buy with our budget as it is. It's the most expensive power washer I've ever seen. It was like $4,500 or something like that. The Mercedes-Benz of pressure washers. But this tractor's just getting ridiculously filthy, so I figured it would do us some good to get that cleaned up at some point in the near future. So I spent like half of our remaining budget, or liquid funds at least, and got a pressure washer. So we'll make that work. Let's see, what do I want to do? We're going to get a solid fertilizer pallet, one of the small ones here, and take a side view here because it's really hard to line up pallet forks from a first person view. And yep, a little too high there. That should do it. I think you can just back up to one of these pallets and fill an implement, but Well, that would be realistic for the liquid fertilizer, the big tanks. It's not too realistic using the big bags here. We're gonna always use the front loader with these. Let's jump out and head back to Ford. We're gonna stick this smallest of available fertilizer spreaders on the Ford and fill it up. If you've listened to previous episodes, you know that I'm a big fan or was a big fan, I'm a big fan of Soil Mod for Farming Simulator 15. I think it really adds some interesting elements to gameplay. And you'll also know that I really like the sort of nice compromises that Giants has made with Farming Simulator 17 and adding some of those features without going too overboard. They've added some nice elements of realism, especially with fertilization, that I'm really looking forward to doing here. And why did I say that? Oh, because I'm not quite sure what type of fertilizer we are using here. This could be a nitrogen fertilizer or an NPK fertilizer, or all right, I suppose it could be lime, but probably not lime. Just for the visual aspect of it, I don't think it's gonna spread like lime. We're not dealing with pHs in this field, so let's kind of go with this being just an NPK, just general purpose fertilizer. We're going to put down a layer of solid fertilizer before our crops start coming out of the ground. I hope that with our pig farm that we've started a little to the north of here, I hope that we'll be able to use more manure and slurry in the future. But this time around, it's all the artificial stuff here. Alright, I guess I've been going this way in the past, so continue to go this way here as we spread. I'm going to turn on GPS mod for just a second, because even when I'm not using GPS mod, it can be a nice way to measure rows. You can set an auto work width in GPS mod, and let's see, and it can give you a good hint on how wide your spreader is going to throw things like fertilizer. There we go. That looks about good. So let's actually leave the guidelines on, although I will drive manually this time around, and we will start spreading here. And you'll notice that our soil behind us is turning dark. Not the most realistic with this dry fertilizer, but it does let us know that a fertilizer layer has been applied, so we'll know if we missed any spots. And we can also keep an eye on that and note when there's been a growth cycle, and the soil will go light again when it's time to put another layer of fertilizer on. I think the next time a growth cycle hits, our radishes will spring up, actually turning the ground a little bit green, so it'll be really obvious when it's time to do some more work out here in the field. I was just talking about soil mod. One thing I really liked about soil mod in Farming Simulator 15 was that it made for more uniform growth cycles, timing-wise, in the game. Instead of growth cycles happening every so often, depending on your growth speed in game settings, it made growth cycles happen well, not every night if you had it set for once every 2 nights, once every 3 nights, once every 4 nights, but however you set it, growth cycles always happened at midnight, and that was kind of nice. You could kind of plan ahead if you could kind of work a day on the farm, and you knew once it was getting laid out, you needed to rush if you wanted to finish a given task, because a growth cycle was going to hit. In vanilla Farming Simulator, in both 15 and 17, growth cycles are a little less predictable. I have growth speed set on its slowest setting. That's how I usually play. If I need to speed things up because I have nothing to do, I will, but we still have a lot to do. So I'm in no hurry. But it does make growth cycles kind of unpredictable, and in some of the FS17 videos that I've watched, I've repeatedly seen the issue happen where people will get halfway through a field, whether they're planting or fertilizing or pretty much doing anything. They'll get halfway through a field and then a growth cycle will hit, and they'll end up with half a field that has crops coming up and half a field that doesn't, or half a field that's fertilized and half a field that's not, or something like that. And I find that very frustrating when that happens to me. So I'm hoping that, although I'm not itching to dive into something like Soil Mod quite yet with Farming Simulator 17, because I like so many of the additions that Giants has made to the vanilla game, I hope that maybe a mod comes out in the near future that could make growth cycles a little bit more predictable, a little bit more uniform, perhaps happening at midnight every day or something like that, just so you could plan around it a little bit better. Alright, I was curious how quickly we were going to go through the solid fertilizer. We're using the smallest, oops, we're going to go this way, across the field. We're using the smallest fertilizer spreader available, and one thing I was worried about is that we're going to keep emptying it out repeatedly and keep having to refill it, which is fine. Keep it nice and realistic that way. But I was just curious how often we were going to have to do that, and I'm kind of impressed with how slowly our fertilizer's draining out. We're down to 72% here, like 500 liters of fertilizer in the spreader, and that's just fine. I don't know if we'll get through all three of these fields in one filling of the spreader, but we're not going to be too far off from that, I don't think. Which is kind of nice. It'll give us the chance to fill it back up occasionally as we acquire more fields and put more fertilizer on the ground, but it won't be something we have to do every 5 minutes. Let's see. Get a new thing here. Get rid of GPS. And once again, I'm driving this manually. I'm not actually using the GPS mod to guide the tractor. I'm just using the guideline here to help me cover the field a little bit more efficiently. That can be a weakness of mine in Farming Simulator. Kind of steering a little off track and leaving gaps in my fertilizer or my seeds or my plowing or whatever. So it's kind of nice to have a little help from the GPS with that. Oops. 14's our medium field. I mean, all three of the fields that we start the game with are pretty small, but 15, the one we just did, is the tiniest. Maybe even the tiniest field on the map. Not quite. A couple fields over there on the west of the map, 10, 17. They look like they might even be a little bit tinier, but 15 is definitely a tiny field. 14's a little bit bigger that we're doing here. And then 12 is kind of our big field at the moment, even though it's quite a small field in itself. But we're working the fields that we have for now. I still haven't had much luck. I keep going over to fields 16 and 19 trying to get missions so we can cozy up to the owners of those fields. So they'll be a little bit, they'll give us a better deal when we have enough money to buy them later on down the road. But those two fields I've still had a hard time getting missions for. They're just not at stages where there's a big call for work in those fields, I guess. I've done a few more missions here and there around. Put some of our proceeds toward that pressure washer. I also bought a flatbed modded trailer that you'll see soon enough, as soon as we have to do any pallet hauling or bale hauling. It's the trailer that we're going to use to cart things around town. Don't have a baler yet, but we will soon. Just using the forage wagon until then. Hopefully after this first harvest we'll have enough capital to get into baling in force here. And we're down below 50% in the spreader right now. Which is fine. Like I said, it's draining a little slower than I figured it might, so that's nice. Couple more passes here and we'll have this field done. Even with the tiny fertilizer, fertilizing goes pretty quick. The tiny fertilizer spreader, I should say. It'll get a little bit more ponderous when we get it into some bigger fields, but by then we'll be able to afford some bigger equipment, so we'll We'll kind of scale up our equipment to match the size of our fields. And 2 more passes here and we'll be in good shape. This will go even quicker when we put liquid fertilizer on the field. I haven't bought our liquid sprayer yet, but I will. That's kind of our next purchase that we'll be making, getting our initial kind of small sprayer and an extra tank for the front of the tractor. We'll be doing this kind of similar thing, only with liquid fertilizer once the crops come up. And one more time. Keep it on the field here as much as we can. We're done putting our NPK pellets or whatever on this field. We'll head over to 12. And finish that off too. Easy enough. All right, we're back at the New Holland that has a front loader on it here, and since we haven't quite started field 12 yet, we're at a good point here to refill our fertilizer spreader. So we're gonna run the pallet over here and top it off. I think we were down to 30% or so in the spreader, so let's fill it back up. So hopefully we can not have to interrupt doing this last field once we've started it. Don't have to open any covers or anything for this one, because the fertilizer spreader is just open on the top, so we just have to drive over it. Hopefully fertilizer goes in. There we go, and oh, used all of that pallet. So, that's that. Turn this tractor off for a second. Jump back in the Ford here. And we're up to 70% in the spreader. I don't know if we can get this entire field done with that much fertilizer. I think so. We'll see how it goes. We have another pallet of solid fertilizer back in the under cover in the main yard, so that's no trouble if we run out. Last time I completely forgot that we had a second pallet of seeds too. I was talking about, oh, if we run out of seeds, we'll have to run to the store, but yeah, we have another pallet of seeds to go through. So we may need to buy some more for our next harvest, but we're not running dangerously low. And pop out here on the road for a second. And our spreader is throwing off that nice layer of fertilizer that's going to get us a more productive harvest. There's a spreader that was slightly bigger, maybe twice the size even, that I think we probably could have technically fit on the back of this tractor, but it would have been a stretch, and I'm not sure how realistic that would have been. The Bredal? It's a brand that hasn't been in Farming Simulator before, and it's not one I'm super familiar with, so I'm probably saying it wrong. Bredal? I'll know for next episode. I'll look it up. But this one has a capacity of 4,000, so way more than twice as big. This one has the one that we have has a capacity of 700 liters of fertilizer. This one's 4,000, so it's quite a bit bigger. And I think we could technically use it with this tractor, like I said, but it would look kind of ridiculous. It's a pretty big piece of equipment. I think we'll wait until we have a larger tractor or two before we upgrade to that piece of technology, if we even need to. Well, we'll see how fast we progress here. And we're down to 50%. We started this field at what? A second ago we started it at 70% or so in the spreader, so going through pretty quick here. I'd say we're not quite half done after this pass, so we may have to go and grab another pallet. Turn off the spread, spin around, and do it again. One thing I did really like about Soil Mod in Farming Simulator 15 is how it made it made the visual aspect of fertilizing a little bit more realistic, in that the ground just didn't turn wet when you put a dry fertilizer down. It didn't just darken the soil. You could actually see the particles on the soil of the fertilizer that you were spreading. And you can actually tell what kind of fertilizer you'd put down by the color. The three types of fertilizers, dry fertilizers that you could put down, had different colors, which was kind of nice. Plus there was lime that you could put down to affect the pH of the soil, and that had its own visual layer that was pretty nice. I hope that modders do some interesting things with that. Even with the default fertilization system in 17, I hope they find some ways to create a better visual representation of the fertilizer that we're putting down. Because that's always neat to me, when you can look at a field afterward and see exactly what you've done to it, rather than just seeing soil that's light or dark. But for now, this will do us just fine. We are more than halfway through this field now, and we're down to 33%, so it's going to be down to the wire here if we're going to be able to finish off this field on this load of fertilizer, or if we'll have to refill. Even a little bit, but I've left myself a little overlap, so we should still be covering everything here. Down to 25%, and 2 more passes to go. I think we'll make it. I think we will make it. When we get done with fertilizing here, I'd like to take a quick look at our pigs, which we bought a little while back, and which we tended to last episode. Got them some bedding and some wheat to eat, and got them some water, and kind of brought up their productivity to a reasonable middling level. We need to get them some more protein and some corn if we want to boost their productivity higher. Some root crops eventually, but for right now they're doing fine. Happy pigs in the mud, breeding a little bit, being productive, making us some money. We'll see how they're doing over on the north end of our farm. All right. We have finished this field, and we have, what, 10% of our fertilizer left. Not much, so that worked out just fine. We can fertilize all 3 of our fields that we currently have on 1 pallet of dry fertilizer. It's good to know. Let's take our Ford back to the main yard, and then we'll take our New Holland back to the main yard. Our 2 almost identical tractors. Squeeze through here. Let's put our fertilizer away. Our fertilizer spreader, I should say. Let's see. I guess I'm going to put it over here for now, so it's not in the way. Not quite sure how we're going to organize some of this storage area here, but figure that out in due time. But let's bring the tractor back over here within range of the pressure washer, and let's jump back over to the New Holland, take that back to the main yard. And I have some washing to do. These tractors are, especially the New Holland here, it's just getting too grungy. All right. Much, much, much better. we can actually tell which one's the Ford branded and which one's the New Holland branded 3840 because we can read the text. That's about as good as we can hope for. So let's ignore both of these tractors and hit the pickup truck and head up to the pigs, where we're gonna check out the progress that we've made. All right, here we are at the pig farm, just to the north of our main farm, just up through the hills a little bit. Let's shut off our truck and jump out and take a look at how our 9 pigs are doing. Looking pretty good. Let's go to the animal menu here and see what they're up to. Looks like we're at about 38% productivity, which is about what we'd expect from having their cleanliness fairly well taken care of. It's dropped a little bit since I've cleaned up after them. We'll have to clean up again in the morning, tomorrow morning. But they still have water, they still have straw, they still have wheat, and they're missing corn, which should be the main part of their diet, and they're missing their protein that they need from soybeans or sunflowers or canola. We'll get them both of those things as soon as we can harvest. They'll have to wait for the root crops for a little while, but they'll manage just fine without root crops for another couple growing seasons. But their productivity is coming along, and they are reproducing at, you can see their reproduction rate's 41 hours. That's how long it takes them to produce a new pig, and we're almost halfway through that. We're down to 26 hours. So this time, a couple hours later than this time tomorrow, in-game, we'll have ourselves 10 pigs. And then another less than 2 days after that, we'll have 11. And then that'll keep growing. One thing I really like to think about in Farming Simulator is how many animals can an area, or like a pen like this, or a cow pen, or a sheep meadow, or what have you. How many animals would an area in one of these maps realistically hold? I always really like trying to be realistic with the number of animals that I maintained on a farm in Farming Simulator. So I was really curious about some of these areas on Goldcrest Valley. And I follow Farming Simulator stuff in a few places online, and but this week I dropped a thread on the Farming Simulator Reddit, just asking if anybody's familiar with livestock practices. What kind of numbers of animals would we be looking at for an area like this? And I was kind of surprised at how low the responses were for pigs. Pigs apparently take up a little more room than sheep do specifically, and the best result that the best answer that I saw, the one that made the most sense and seemed like it was coming from the most knowledgeable source, was in a pen like this you might only be looking at like 10 to 15 pigs. You maybe more if you were kind of utilizing that barn back there for storing some additional animals, but you wouldn't be looking at much more than that in a pen this size. I was kind of thinking it would be something more like 20 or 30, but that's okay. I think I'm going to lower my my original kind of planned estimates a little bit. We might stick with a dozen or maybe 15 pigs in here as kind of a base group, and let them breed up to, I don't know, 20 or 30. And then sell those off, get back down to 10 or 12 or 15. And that's a little lower than I was planning, but that's fine. I want to keep it realistic, and apparently pigs take up a little bit more room than I thought. I learned a little bit about sheep numbers too, even though we haven't started sheep farming yet. We'll be getting into that soon. Apparently you can cram sheep in a little bit closer together. Estimates coming from the same source, estimates for like the number of sheep that you could put on a map like this. I know we haven't been to the sheep pasture yet, but we'll get out there soon. And looks like you might be able to have upwards of 50 or maybe even 80 sheep on a farm this size. We might go with the maybe the lower end of that estimate, stick with like 50 or so in our base herd, but yeah, so we can have definitely more sheep though than we can have pigs if we want to keep it realistic. From what I've read so far, I'm going to keep looking for people's responses to that thread I posted and keep reading and always make adjustments as I learn more about farming. Radishes! Look at all this green. Overnight, our radish crop has sprung up. I just wanted to give you a little sneak peek of what we'll be up to next time. We'll be cultivating these back under and letting them add their wonderful nutrients back to our soil. So these are our very, very first crop that we've brought up from scratch here in Farming Simulator 17, and I couldn't be more excited. I hope you will join me next time as we continue working these fields. Thanks so much. Like and subscribe if you liked and want to subscribe. And I will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.